Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am excited to have with me Denzil Eden, and let me tell you a little bit about her. She built Smarty, an all-in-one AI productivity assistant that plans your best day every day. A trailblazer as a solo female technical founder, Denzil carved her niche with an AI-focused degree from MIT, an MBA from Harvard, and a distinguished career at Microsoft. Denzil is devoted to making your life smarter with AI, enhancing routines, automating mundane tasks, and maximizing every minute. When she unplugs, Denzil plays the piano, authors fiction and op-eds, and sips teas. Love it. The three P's of AI, personalized, predictive, and proactive, are the theme that we're going to have today. Again, the three P's of AI, personalized, predictive, and proactive. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Denzil Eden. Denzil, what an impressive background you have.
Thank you so much. I've been very lucky and privileged to be able to pursue my passions.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for having me.
And it's so cool that you are involved in something that is really going to be changing the world. You know, it's as I am 66, I have been privileged to see things go change over time. And I believe that AI is going to be one of those things that changes the way we do things, the way that the world looks. And it's really exciting to be part of that.
I agree. I think AI is going to be such a transformational tool for every industry, every business. It's going to affect everyone in how they live and work and play. And it's exciting to be part of it and see what's happening in the next 5, 10, 100 years.
Yeah. So before we get into the hard questions, I just want to always, as I do, ask the simple question of you. Tell everybody where you live. Where do you call home?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York right now, but I grew up in San Jose, California.
Two great places, yes. So let's just kind of get into this. What were the key strategies that helped you to successfully raise $2.5 million as a first-time founder? That's pretty impressive.
Thank you. It was a journey. And I think for everyone out there who's trying to raise capital from either investors or angels, or even just friends and family, the number one thing is to be persistent and to be willing to learn. So it's two things. So for me personally, I started thinking about my startup idea in 2018, but I didn't actually raise money until January of 2020. So it was a lot of persistence, a lot of willingness to ask the right questions, to get feedback and learn from the experts, the people who were going to be investing in me ultimately, getting their concerns, getting their thoughts, and trying to curate my knowledge and my roadmap to match their needs and also align with my own product vision. So for everyone out there, it's very much about persistence, perseverance, and curiosity.
For sure. And what advice would you give any of the solopreneurs or founders, people who want to start any business, how do you secure that funding so that you can get the startup? But I think I heard in your explanation there, the persistence, but you have to also, I heard, have a plan and know what your vision and purpose and all that is. How do you articulate that clear enough that makes others want to give their dollars?
I think it has to start with a passion. Like you need to have an idea that you are willing to be married to for a long, long time. Because an investor, whether it's friends and family or whether it's a venture capitalist, they want to see that you are committed to what you want to work on. Because the startup journey or starting anything really is very hard and it's very lonely. And there is no ready-made roadmap. It is a lot of unknown unknowns, and you're going to have high highs and low lows. And the investor, I think the number one thing a lot of investors are looking for is knowing that you're committed, that you're not going to get dejected one day and then leave and go find some golden handcuffs somewhere else. It's really, really important that you are committed to what you're building, and you're also willing to make it succeed, because your first idea is not the one that's going to work. You're going to have to iterate, you're going to have to change and adapt. And so you need to be willing to hear feedback and learn so you can do what it takes to succeed.
And I think that's really great advice. I know, just if I put on my project manager hat, whenever you sit down and you're starting to work with stakeholders and people with the business ideas, the first ones that they come up with may be, that passion project, that thing that they really want to do, but it's in those discussions you have with the other folks, the different brains all contributing, that the better ideas sometimes come out. And if you're married to it as you talk, then you might be close to having it be better and more, and to be able to evolve too. I think anything that we build, we need to be able to see the long-term vision of what it could be,
100%. And I think you have to find the right data sources. So it's the stakeholders, the users, the pain points, and you need to make sure you're not biting off too much, biting off more than you can chew, because you should be solving a very specific problem for a very specific person, at least at the beginning, that is working and that you can ideally make money off of.
Yeah, it's the small steps. I think a lot of great things happen where they build that foundational piece, but build it in a way that you can grow from it. It's almost like we had a hospital here built, and the way that it was structured, they knew at some point they were going to need to add more floors to the top of the building to have increased capacity. So they built that foundation that it could hold and support that. And I think that's something that as we do our businesses, we need to think about what is the foundation we're building, and starting small so that we can be able to support what we grow into.
I totally agree. That is such a great framework for how to think about breaking down a problem and then building up a solution.
Yeah. So talk about the journey that you had. You were at prestigious schools, and again, timing in life is everything. You just were so fortunate to be at a perfect time in 2020, where we were all shut down and think tanks, I think, were going on hyperdrive. So talk about how you overcame any kind of overwhelm or risk aversion, maybe, to doing what you're doing, knowing that this was the future, but maybe not everybody saw what you saw.
Definitely. That's so funny, because that is exactly my journey. So I'll start at the very beginning. I started coding very young. I was 8 years old. I started with Logo, which was this language that they taught at schools with a little turtle. And I just fell in love with how logical and programmatic coding was, how you could build things with just like a few sentences. And I fell in love. I ended up taking that passion with me to MIT, where I did my bachelor's and master's in computer science, but my master's had a thesis project in human computer interactions. And so I pretty much built a precursor of Slack, but for classrooms so that students and teachers could collaborate. I wish I'd stuck with it and actually built it out into its own product, but out of college, I was very anti-startup. I thought it wasn't for me. I didn't want to be a founder. And I told myself I'd rather be at a bigger company. And so I went to Microsoft, started as a PM, which was great. It built up a lot of my product chops, but I missed being technical. So I started teaching computer science on the side. I ended up eventually switching to becoming a software engineer at Yammer, which was a smaller startup within the Microsoft ecosystem. So it was kind of the best of both worlds because I saw how a smaller team moved rapidly, but I was still under that Microsoft umbrella. And it started to open me up to, I guess, a smaller company or a smaller product where everyone was moving at a faster pace. But I still wasn't sure if I wanted to be in tech. And so I decided to go to business school instead. But in that time period, I ended up trying so many different careers, just trying to figure out what I loved because I had so many passions and so many curiosities. And I felt like life was too short to commit to one. And now I'm on the other side of it where I'm like, life is long and you should work on what you really love. And that's really the conclusion I came to while I was at business school. I was feeling a lot of overwhelm in both my personal and professional life. I had this just pages and pages long to-do list of everything I needed to get done for my family, for my work, for just my school activities. And I realized that almost half of the things I needed to do could easily be automated with existing technology, that I should be able to ask something to do this for me and it should get it done the way that I like it. And so I actually started building Smarty as a passion project for myself. It started out as a chatbot. And we talked a little bit earlier about raising money. I pitched that chatbot to our first investor in 2018. And it was Pear Ventures out in the Bay Area. And the founding partner there, Mar, she gave me great feedback. She's like, okay, what is your target market here? How does this make money? Like, why are you building already? She gave me such great feedback and such great mentorship. And I kept working on it on the side for a couple of years. And I kept pitching to her, kept trying to get feedback. And I think eventually I assume, was like impressed with my persistence and also the progress that I'd made just by myself in my spare time. And they were our first check-in and they helped us get started and off the ground. And Smarty has just been through so many iterations since then. But really, I think once you have a little bit of external validation and you have a lot of internal validation and purpose, things can align and come together.
So let's just talk a little bit about what Smarty is and does.
Perfect. Yeah. So Smarty is trying to be a conversational administrative assistant. The goal is that you tell Smarty what you have to get done, and Smarty will automate how to do that. So for example, I can say something like coffee with Stella at Blue Bottle in San Francisco at 2 p.m. London time. And Smarty will parse the time zone, parse the date and time, the location, the contact, and send a calendar invite to me and Stella. And that's just in calendar management, but we're already in task management, scheduling link management, contact management, and we're adding email management right now. So really trying to be this conversational assistant for solopreneurs.
Perfect. And you can see the project manager brain in working there too for all of that. So whenever you launched this, what were the first, I guess, group of customers that you had for Smarty, and how did it change their lives?
Yeah, so a lot of our users today are small business owners, freelancers, solopreneurs, folks who used to have an executive assistant, but then started something of their own and couldn't bring their amazing EA with them and didn't want to take the hours and years it takes to train a VA to work as well as someone who's known you for years in person. And so for them, they really wanted a digital app that was an extension of themselves, something that worked and thought the way that they did. And that's why they started using Smarty. For them, it is a tool that empowers them without having to have all of the management of someone else who is new to your preferences, to your knowledge. So that's how Smarty has been changing people's lives today and what we hope to keep doing.
So how does it train itself to think like you, or how do you train it to think like you? How does it, Is it something that, is built over time, that it gets better as time, what I would assume, as time goes on, just like ChatGPT, the more I put me into it, the more me comes out of it. But
No,
talk to me about
exactly.
that.
Yeah, so you connect to Smarty with the different apps that you use. So right now you can connect with Gmail, Google Calendar, your Google Contacts. And so Smarty has that data around what you are already doing in your work and life and across your multiple accounts, your work accounts, as well as your personal accounts. And so that is like the foundation. Smarty has this data that we keep in a secure, encrypted place. And then Smarty uses that information to understand what you're going to do. And this actually ties into the 3 Ps of AI, what you expect AI to be. So AI should be predictive in the sense that it understands what you're doing right now and it can predict what you're going to do next. So that is the first pillar of AI. And that is exactly what Smarty does. It takes the context of what you're doing to try to understand what you're going to do next. Then based off that, it's proactive. It gives you recommendations on those next steps. It understands that if you are on this LinkedIn page, then you must want information about this person and predicts
Right.
that item and then recommends the next steps, sending them an email, sending them a calendar invite. So it's proactive about providing recommendations. And then finally, AI should be personalized based off what you typically do, what you've done in the past, what actions you've taken in the past. Smarty will provide personalized recommendations for what you should do moving forward. It might even specifically do things like the specific way that you like to do it. So for example, with emails, if you like to write emails in a specific way, Smarty has that history and then will write emails in the future based off that behavior. And so that personalized element. And I think you'll see that with all of the AI tools coming out today. They're all trying to be more predictive, more proactive, and more personalized to your preferences.
Perfect. So how has your background in coding, though, influenced your approach to being a leader, CEO?
Being a startup founder is wearing a lot of hats. And what I've learned more than anything else in this journey is that you have to have a growth mindset. I heard someone recently tell me the difference between the imposter syndrome and the growth mindset is that when you're feeling like an imposter, you're telling yourself, I can't do this. Everyone's going to find out I can't do this. And a growth mindset is, I can't do this, but I can learn how to do this.
Yeah.
I can find the resources and the data and the right people to help me get over this barrier right now. And I think that is the biggest thing as any small business owner, founder, anyone who's trying to create something from nothing, you have to just be willing to grow and learn and find the right resources.
Yeah. And I think that's really important to avoid the overwhelm too, because if you want to be a solopreneur or a sole business owner, it is lonely and it is frustrating and it is overwhelming. But if you delegate, if you know that other people can do it successfully, maybe not the same way you do, but gets the same outcome, then that's good. And that's a great way to be able to maintain maybe a personal life and and a business life. What are some of the challenges that you might face integrating AI into your operations, and how can we avoid or eliminate them?
That's a great question because I think AI feels like a very overwhelming, lofty, transformational technology that everyone is using or everyone should be using. But really, I think a lot of companies, even today, big tech companies, are struggling with figuring out how to integrate AI technologies into their company's workforce and workflows and how to monetize the usage of this AI tools. And so really, everyone's kind of in the same boat. We're all trying to figure out how is this technology going to be transformational, because it is transformational. It is capable of doing so much, but figuring out what is the best way to integrate it into our daily lives is going to take time and experimentation, which is why if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're not behind. There's still so much time to start experimenting with all of the tools that are coming out every day. And AI will be transforming every industry, from how we write to how we create music to how we watch entertainment. It can be applied to pretty much any industry. And so if you're passionate about something, if you're passionate about art, then it might be worth looking into AI art tools and just start seeing how are artists using AI today. It's just about following your own passions and then doing the research. And you're not behind. You can get started with these tools. A lot of them are trying to make it as easy as possible to get started.
Very true. And it's a great advice too, to just dip your toe in the water and try all these different things to see what works for you. I know I wanted to do headshots, and so I went to a normal for photographer and had things done. And then I saw online and I thought, I'm just going to give it a go. And it was not expensive, and it was fast, and it was pretty good too. So, it's just experimenting. I think it's fun to do all
It's
that.
so much fun. And I love that you brought up the headshots example, because that's something I've been thinking about as well. And I've seen these AI headshot tools. They're so great. They're definitely more than good enough, better than you taking a selfie at home. And so I highly recommend people just start trying things.
Yeah. And also I had a person who was working on a resume, and the comment that they gave the person that they were reviewing the resume was, well, it's a terrible resume. And I'm thinking, why didn't you just go to an AI tool and put their resume in that tool and let them see what it could be, as opposed to just telling them, well, that stunk and
Yeah, I
try
agree.
again.
I actually think that's such a great point, because I think AI coaches are going to become more and more of a thing, because the way that AI works, exactly what we were talking about at the 3 pillars, it is predictive. And the way it's able to do that is it has all of this data around how things have been done in the past, right? So it understands what are best practices based off what has been done beforehand. And so it might not be the best at creating something totally new or unique, but it is great at getting you to a standardized level that is considered competent.
Yeah. And I always look at it as that springboard. I use often the whole brainstorming sessions that were painful at best. And it just gives you, oh, here's 20 things that you might not have even considered or thought of. There are a lot of people that aren't innovative and creative yet. And so it helps. And I've heard negatives about, well, it's going to take away the creativity and negativity. And for me, it just is inspirational. And it allows me to just start to think further. And so I think it's just how you use it. But the time saver of what your Smarty does, I think, is really what is the fascinating piece of this, because a lot of people don't have good time management skills, don't really, they get surprised by what's coming up next. And a tool like that, I think, can really be helpful. Talk about time management and the benefits of your tool with that.
Perfect. I think there is a right way to be productive. There is so much data, there's so much science and research that shows there are right ways to optimize your brain's energy, your neural pathways, how you should be thinking about the work that you have to do. And sometimes that's personalized to your specific preferences, but in general, there are real research-backed tactics in order to have the most efficient and optimized day. And with a tool like Smarty, we are staying up to date on all of that cutting-edge research and building it into the product. And so one example is time blocking. It is so important if you need to get something done to find a spot for it on your calendar. But obviously things happen. You have emergencies come up, things shuffle around, priorities change. And so with Smarty, if you use Smarty's AI auto scheduling feature to schedule a task into your calendar and you don't get it done, Smarty will automatically roll it over to a new day that works before the deadline. So we are very big on using AI to automatically reschedule your entire calendar based off your priorities, your deadlines, things that come up. And that is something that people are already doing manually, but it takes hours, and it's so hard to make sure that you're keeping track of everything that's on your plate. But actually, that's something computers are really, really good at. They love getting a list of constraints and formulas and priorities and figuring out how to optimize that puzzle. And so really, there are things that computers are much better at doing than humans are. And so we need to find a way to play to our strengths and allow technology to play to its strengths.
So as you were talking about that, again, as putting on my project manager hat from past, I know one of the time sucks was whenever I had to coordinate a meeting, my meetings usually were multi groups. And so if you had 25 or 30 people that you had to coordinate a meeting time, and then if you had to change it, there was another hour or two sucked with that. Is the Smarty collaborative, that if you had the team put into that, all using it, could it then not only reschedule your time, but be able to say, okay, well, when we reschedule it, it's going to work for all these other 25 people?
Exactly. No. So Smarty is so great at finding mutual availabilities. That's actually something that we're really big on doing. That's how we started actually, with scheduling links. And so with Smarty, you can say something like, you can say like, board meeting next week with Denzil, Vicki, Stella, and Kimmy, and at 2 hours, and Smarty will automatically find a 2 hours time block for all 4 schedules if Smarty has access to those calendars, which we are on top of G Suite. So if you're using a G Suite workspace, you already have access to your coworkers' calendars. So does Smarty. Smarty can find those mutual times of availability. And so we don't have any 25-person teams on the product yet, but that is something that we are doing.
Awesome. That's a great thing. Well, time has flown by, and it's time for me just to give you, I think I can fit in both of my rapid fires. So many people ask, should I launch my own business? And so what do you think? What advice would you give them?
100%. If this is something that you are passionate about, if you're curious about it, I think everyone should try the startup journey, the founder's journey, because it is such a great way to learn so much about yourself and to push yourself to the highest level. The one thing I will say is that not everyone needs to dive in right away. There's so many ways to validate your idea and figure out, can you make money here? Can you build a profitable, scalable business? And I honestly wish I had listened to that advice myself, because as a builder, I was very tempted to just build and hope that my users will come. And now that I've been doing it for a couple of years, I know that there are really great ways to validate an idea without even building a prototype. You can build landing pages on websites to see how much interest there is. You can run experiments with user research in malls or in public settings. There's so many things you can do without quitting your job, without building something from scratch. Short, inexpensive experiments are the way to get started. And then as you build up confidence, because you have this data that shows you there is a real problem that people are willing to pay to solve, that's when you can start actually committing full time, I think.
Yeah. And the internet makes market research so much more available and easy to use, as opposed to having to do focus groups, or, I mean, you don't have to even leave the comfort of your computer area. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it
And
makes it great.
I think those tools, like AI tools that we were talking about, you can start talking to ChatGPT, for example, and say, I want to test this idea. What are some ways to get started? You can find experts in user research and just have a 1-hour consultation with them to understand how to get started.
Perfect. And how has your experience as this solo technical female founder shaped your perspective on the diversity in tech? I often interview people about to talk about women in tech, which is, it's growing, but it's a slower snail space, I think.
Definitely. I don't think we're at 50-50 yet, and I think it'll take some time. The one thing I really want people to remember is that you should be actively thinking about, is this a diverse group? Is everyone getting enough representation here? And not just with gender, but also introverts and extroverts, people of different races and ethnicities and different backgrounds, computer science versus liberal arts. I had like a very concrete awakening to how blind you can be to a scenario in front of you. When I used to teach computer science at a community college, I remember thinking for the first few classes that I taught that my class was 50-50 gender ratio wise, because I didn't really process it. And then I actually counted out the number of students that I had, and it was a 1-to-3 ratio. And I think we get so used to seeing like a certain number of women in our workforce that we suddenly start to think of it as 50-50, even if it's not. And so I really encourage people to be counting and like actively asking yourself, is this a diverse group?
Yeah. And you need that diversity for the strength of the team and the business. All right. So if you've enjoyed all that's been shared today, it's time for me to share my screens with contact information for Denzil. So grab a paper and pencil if you're just listening. I will share the contact information, and if you're watching, you definitely can go ahead and grab that screenshot. So for those just listening, it is smarty.ai as the website, smarty.ai. That's SMARTY.ai. On Facebook, you can find her with her name, Denzil.Eden, E-D-E-N. My mouth is not working today. Instagram is Denzil_Eden. LinkedIn is Denzil S like Sam, Denzil S like Sam. Twitter is Denzil Eden, TikTok at Denzil Eden, and YouTube is at Denzil Eden. And I'm going to turn it over now to Denzil to talk to you about her call to action and give you a little bit more information about Smarty.
Thank you so much, Vicki, for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be connected with all of the listeners here today. As Vicki said, I started a company called Smarty. We're trying to level up your productivity and help you plan your best day every day with AI. You can check out the product at smarty.ai and connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Yeah, so I would encourage everybody to check out the website and see if it can't help your business. You know, it's a great thing to have all of these tools available to you. And I think that this is one that will make a big impact in your life. So definitely go to smarty.ai and check it out. Oh, Denzil, it was great. We have to catch up in a few months to see what new things you have on the horizon, and definitely have you on one of my summits so that you can share with that larger audience as well. So thank you. Thank you so much for being a great guest. And as always, I remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.